Welcome to All Villa, No Filler. Remember to subscribe to the podcast, follow us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. This is an interview special with one of the best football broadcasters around. You'll see him on the likes of Sky and ESPN. It is Sam Tighe, friend of the show, friend of mine. And today we're going to rank Aston Villa's squad and figure out who is on the rise and who is about to fall like two Roman emperors in the Colosseum. Sam, we'll be sticking our thumbs down or up for the fates of Aston Villa's players.
Yeah, so hello, mate. What an intro. Lovely to join you. The reason we're doing this is because, well, usually at this stage of the summer, most fans around the world right now are discussing all the great summer business their club's done, aren't they? They're all sat there going, oh, we've brought this player in. We've brought that player in. Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing him play. Oh, I wonder what he brings to the table. Yeah. We can't do any of that, can we? Oh, that's not for us. No. So we're having to take a slightly alternate look at what we already have, basically reframing a discussion about the fact that Villa so far have just kept the bands together and done very little else. But I'm excited. I think it's a nice, fresh way of looking at the squad.
Absolutely, yeah. And we do have to credit our good friend, fellow WhatsApp member Tom McGowan for this concept as well. He's somebody who will be coming onto this show, I am certain of it, in the very near future. But yeah, I mean, before we do jump on that, transfer window wise, it's a weird transfer window, isn't it?
Yes, it feels like a drought.
Yeah,
it feels like the great drought of 2025. The uncertainty has really got to people, and I can certainly understand why. No one likes to be in a situation where they just don't know what's going on. And for Villa this summer, there's been 2 or 3 names in the existing squad that, you know, just been consistently floated about for potential exits. One of those being Boubacar Kamara, who fortunately has decided to stay, arguably Villa's best player. Mm-hmm. So I don't think you can paint this as anything other than a huge positive to retain the services of arguably your best player. Morgan Rogers at the moment looks cold, so that's another win. Just leaves us with Ollie Watkins and Emi Martinez. And unfortunately, the narrative and the rhetoric around Villa summer has all been about, will these players stay? Can they keep hold of these players? Will they have to be sold? Not looking on the bright side, looking across Europe and saying, who can we bring in to really strengthen this team? So it's been a bit difficult to stomach, partially because on paper it lacks ambition, but I think we all know the reason why. It's PSR hamstrings rather than lack of ambition.
Yeah.
And also, we've become quite accustomed to quick-fire starts to these summers these days, haven't we? Villa have been quick out of the blocks last couple of years. Last year with the Douglas Luiz PSR stuff, it was Onana didn't take long to come in after the PSR deadline. So Villa were on the board with a couple of big deals in and out really early last year. And this year it's been like, well, Kane Kessler-Hayden's gone for $3.5 million. You know, that's the story. Enzo Barandiche has gone out on loan. You know, that it's not enough, is it? It's not a full meal.
No, it's slightly. I think the only thing that slightly worries me a bit is, you know, when you think back when Tottenham got to the Champions League final, and I think the summer after they didn't do anything, didn't buy anyone. I mean, Villa had bought Marco Bizzo, you know, to replace Olsen, and Zepikeno Redmond as well. But you sort of think, well, you know, when Tottenham after that Champions League, that was the time to strike, and then they didn't refresh the squad, and it all sort of. It's hard to keep up the momentum.
But look at Newcastle right now. You know, I mean, they actually got Champions League football, and they haven't. They're having the worst summer ever. It's a hall of shame. Summer so far. Yeah, and their fans are beside themselves, and understandably so. And you know, not only have they missed out on like 8 players that they were chasing for some of them for more than a year, they've got this uncertainty hanging around them over Alex Isak as well, which is just absolutely killing some of them emotionally. So it's not as simple as have a good season and strengthen and go onwards and upwards. And Villa and Newcastle in particular know that the rules right now dictate that is not technically possible.
Yeah, and it's brutal when you see some of the Champions League teams outside of Newcastle, you know, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City spending very, very big sums on players. It's going to be very hard to compete with those for this season. But, you know, still feeling positive about Villa. I think we've, you know, still got so much positivity around us. It's just a weird summer. And I assume there will be some movement towards the end of the window, but it does feel like a lot of it relies on players going out, really, doesn't it?
Yes, and I'm under the impression here that, and this is just personal opinion, but I think Villa are trying quite hard not to line anything up too publicly and too obviously, because they would be concerned about basically suffering the same fate as Tottenham have done so many times over the years. So let's look back at when Tottenham agreed terms with Porto for Luis Diaz, and then Liverpool went, "Oh, that sounds like a good deal. I think we'll take that off your hands, actually." Yeah. And of course, it's happened to Spurs many times. Willian is the most classic example there, with Chelsea just nicking him at the airport, basically. But that happened to Tottenham and Luis Diaz. They agreed all the terms with Porto, payment structure, everything, and Liverpool went, "We'll match that, and then we'll give you more money, and you can come and join us instead." And Diaz went, "Yeah, I think I'll book a flight to Liverpool instead, actually." So that's the risk you run when you can't pay top wages and genuinely drill down and nail those top targets. Villa are in that situation right now where they could easily be outmaneuvered because of the salary issues. Yeah. So why would you go to the trouble of sorting out a deal almost for the benefit of somebody else if you're just going to get them nicked off you at the last moment? So for me, it's like Villa are keeping their powder dry. They're waiting for a lot of those top tier targets to maybe unfortunately move out of their reach. And then you might end up with someone like, here's an example, El Kanous. El Kanous looks like a player that is perfectly good enough to join Villa, could easily find a role at the club. I think Emery would love him. And I think, but he's not option A, is he? He's not option A or B or C. He's probably D. And Villa are just waiting to pull the trigger on a few probably quite good ideas, because they can't afford to get big dogged by another team as soon as they line up the deal.
Yeah, exactly that. It's it's just a summer where it feels like the PSR SCR rules in place at the moment. It's we're seeing its full impact, really. Some of its limitations. Obviously there are some positives to it. Stopping insane spending that just destroys football entirely. But we're just seeing how it unfortunately a byproduct of it is essentially what looks like protecting the places of the top 4 or 5, really.
At the moment, and a bit of stagnation for Villa, but we'll see. I mean, we've got a month left, and you never know what might transpire here, in or out. So I'm sure something's a big domino is going to fall in the next 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure of it. And
I just can't help but feel there's going to be a loan of some type, a big loan. Dare we say that the name that's hanging up behind your head there? Which one, Rashford or Grealish?
Can only be one now.
Actually,
just over to the other side is Oxlade-Chamberlain. Fancy him on a loan?
Oh well, where was he last? Was he in Turkey?
Besiktas, I think he's on the transfer block. I think he's available if anyone wants him.
Right.
I'd rather get Harvey Elliott. Let's put it that way.
Yes, I think Harvey Elliott's the one that I can keep coming back to in my head. I think he'd be able to get out of Liverpool, and he'd very much suit Villa. The technical player could play off a striker. I think it's what we need. Right, well, here we go.
Yes,
we have got the tier list. And
what on earth is that one at the bottom, eh?
Well, that's Sam Tighe. I'm going to put him in the "they are done" section.
Washed.
He's washed. He's finished. He's on his. Get him out to the MLS. That's his age now. He's on that final contract. So you're in the "they are done." But so this list is basically for those who are listening or watching here. So got 6 categories. The entire Villa squad is there, including Sam Tighe as well. And it starts off with big steps right at the top. So these are players that we think this season are going to make, get well ahead and improve massively, or, end up becoming a player that, the world comes to recognize. Rising baller is very much, I've never sounded more middle-aged in my life than saying rising baller. But it's what everyone says when I play football on the weekdays. They're all like 20 years of age, a lot younger than me. So that's more about players who, we think this season could kind of start to get a bit better, have a positive impact this year, stay the same, probably, same as they ever were. Then we've got the slight drop-off, players we think might fall off a little bit. Falling, as in like these guys are on the way down, and then they are done, are players in our squad that we think are on their way.
Could you just take me out of that, just for my own personal well-being for the rest of the show?
Big steps. You can go there. So you're in the big step section now. All right, well, we'll start off with the man himself, Emi Martinez. Thoughts?
Yeah, so Emi had an up and down season. I think from a shot-stopping perspective, he felt like he underperformed last season. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of goals that he let in towards the end of the season that I think we all sat there and just kind of went, "Oh, like could you have done a bit better with that one?" Like the one, the first one at Man City, that Bernardo Silva sort of forced home. I think it was like that. Felt very weak, and there were a few of those through the season. It was a bit of a shame. You contrast that with the fact that he caught every single ball that was put into the box from a corner all year, and it was genuinely a very positive presence. And there were some unbelievable performances, right? Like the Bayern Munich game, for example, he was just unbelievably good.
Yeah.
But I would say that the general feeling around Emmy's season was that it was under par for him. I think it was a bit undercooked. I don't think he will get any worse. And I think there's an argument to say that he could actually improve from a shot-stopping perspective, and that would lift him into the rising category. But I want to go quite safe here and suggest that he stays roughly the same level for this coming season.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the same. I think I agree with you. I'd like to think that one or two of the mistakes he made in the last season hopefully will go out of his game. Obviously, there's a lot of question marks over, the tears at the end of the game against Tottenham at Villa Park, and a lot of the noise around him potentially leaving the club. It's all been a bit weird, but it sort of feels like there's no move on now, really. Man U was the option, or Saudi Arabia, and I just don't think he fancies Saudi. So, yeah, sticking around at Villa, I think, and I agree with you. I think staying the same. Now, a couple of players here we don't know a lot about, but Marco Bizzo. Now, I know that you wrote about him during his time at Brest when he had an exceptional Champions League performance. I've seen him in pre-season. The one thing that's really noticeable already, the fact that he can kick a bloody ball, his distribution is good compared to our previous number 2. So, yeah, I mean, what do you think about Marco Bizzo, that signing?
It's pretty hard to say whether or not he's going to get sort of better or worse this season than last season, based on the fact that he's coming from a situation, we assume right now, from number 1 at Brest to number 2 at Villa. And all the reporting around this has been that he is signed to be Villa's backup goalkeeper. So can a player going from a first choice scenario to a backup scenario get better at 34? I seriously doubt it. But he'll probably won't get any worse because he's still in the prime of his career and he probably ups his levels a little bit playing for a better team. So I'd probably suggest sticking him in the same category, which is to stay about the same level, based on the fact that it's not possible for him to improve, but I doubt he gets worse.
Yeah, same. Yeah, exactly that. And I think, I think Premier League might be a bit of a revelation for him. And I think he's a better goalkeeper than Robin Olsen, I think, is most likely the case. And so I think for us to have a backup goalkeeper who has the level of experience that he does and the proven track record is a positive upgrade. Actually, it's one of the few things this summer where you sort of think, oh, I'm actually quite happy with what's happened there. And then Joe Gauci, of course, I think we can just quickly sort of say Joe Gauci probably stay the same, go out on loan, whatever it is he does.
Probably gone. I don't know. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to make sense of a third choice goalkeeper. I did wonder if maybe this summer Gauci would be sold and like Philip Marshall would take the number 3 spot because he's homegrown. But Philip Marshall left the club yesterday.
Yeah.
So no, that didn't happen. Gauci, I think I'd probably say gone or stay the same.
Yeah, I think we'll go stay the same until we get an update on him, I guess. Now we're into the defence. Now this is the proper squad here. Pau Torres, I think we'll start off on him. Thoughts?
I want to deflect this one straight back to you, Frankie. You can lead this one because I'm pretty torn on Pau.
Right, interesting. Yes, I think when you see Mings, you see everything that Pau Torres doesn't really seem to have. But then when you see Pau Torres, you see qualities that Tyrone Mings does not have. And therefore, it feels like goals are conceded by Mings that are the result. If he was just a bit more like Pau, that wouldn't have happened, i.e. passing a ball straight to a bloody midfielder, as he just did in pre-season. Or with Torres, it's when he starts certain games, and the physical aspect of it, you think if Mings was there, I don't think that goal happens.
Yeah.
So they perfectly complement each other. If we could somehow make them into one play, you probably got the perfect defender.
Yeah, but he'd be 100 million euros. So
yeah, it'd be Virgil van Dijk basically, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, since you sort of bringing them both into the same conversation, I would say I expect more of the same from Pau, which is to say that I expect his strengths to be his strengths and his weaknesses to remain his weaknesses. I just don't think he's going to change as a player. He hasn't done so for 3 years, 4 years, whatever it might be, and I don't see a scenario where that happens. With Mings, I'm on the pessimistic side of things here. I do appreciate that his presence in the team back end of last season did tend to lead to wins and clean sheets. There's a very positive correlation in terms of Tyrone Mings plays, Aston Villa win.
Mm-hmm.
But, from the outside looking in, from a physical perspective, it feels like Tyrone Mings is starting to drop off after a serious injury.
Yeah,
and so I would say I would put him in the slight drop category. Unfortunately, I don't like the fact that I'm suggesting he's the first one to go in there, but I do think that Tyrone is now going to start, not winding down, it's the wrong phrase, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I get that, and it's won't have the same sort of game time as he did when he was a regular starter, and just getting a year older and more wear and tear. I guess I can see that.
His influence on the team is certainly dropping. Because of that. Sometimes it's a lack of availability, and sometimes it's simply a case of, well, the team has remodeled itself around Pau Torres' passing, so that naturally pushes Tyrone Mings to the side a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a fair assessment, and I think it's. I'm glad we've got him on a new contract, just because I think he's a good player off the pitch and on the pitch to have there as a kind of, we can get Tyrone in and he'll do a job and whatever else. So I'm glad he's still there. But yeah, I'd agree with you. I think maybe a slight drop. But now this player is interesting to me. Ezri Konsa. What do you reckon?
What, my favourite player?
Yeah.
I think stick him in the very top category.
Big set.
I don't know. Ezri's been on a steady rise. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to figure out where these players tend to top out, but my hunch is that he has basically reached his potential.
Yeah,
and so I don't see him dropping anytime soon. So I'd have to stick him in a stay the same category again. I appreciate with that. That's looking very highly populated right now, but I do have some other ideas for other players soon.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. There's no sign of him really dipping. I think something I would like to see for Konsa though is, when I've looked at the Villa squad, that backup, that right centre back area, that does seem to be an area of we need more competition for Konsa, because if Konsa goes and gets injured, or God, I hope that doesn't happen. But were he to be injured, that part of the pitch looks quite, I wouldn't say weak, but light. And I think it'd be good for Konsa to have competition as well, because he's been there. He's been that solid right centre back role for a long while now, and I just think having someone else there competing with him might actually help him get even to a higher level. But as you say, I think he's more than likely sort of top to where he is, and now he's a regular England international as well.
He's been basically untouchable for 5.5 years, maybe, or something like that. Like basically ever since he nicked Björn Engel's spot in the team in the promotion, the season after promotion, he's just not really moved out of the team, has he? Like Villa have brought in Diego Carlos, but that was with an eye on replacing Mings. Then Mings came back in, so he plays with Konsa. Who else have Villa had? Jan Bednarek.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. On his way to FC Porto now, amazingly.
Yeah. I don't know how he's managed to wrangle that, but he has. Well done to him. So Ezri hasn't really been fighting for his position. I don't think Disasi gave him a particularly honest challenge last season either. No. So it would be interesting to see what kind of reaction that gets out of him, and maybe that would stick him in the rising category. But for now, I sort of just expect classic Ezri for the time being.
Yeah, same here. Right, so our next player now featured quite a bit in pre-season already, Lamar Bogard. What do you think?
Bogard. I mean, his absolute floor here is rising, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's a young player who is now going to get, presumably, more exposure to first-team football, probably Thursday night duties, but there's nothing wrong with that. As a homegrown player, he'll be essential for the squad registration, and you can see him playing a lot of those Europa League games. be it at right back, centre back, or midfield. That versatility will help him too. But just getting those minutes and playing in this team and playing for Emery means he's at minimum rising. I'm just interested to see if you think he's got it in him to make those big steps. Do you think he qualifies for that top category?
So that's interesting. Well, pre-season he's been set a few tests already against Eintracht Frankfurt, who treated that game very, very like a professional Champions League game. They were incredibly intense in that game, lots of fouls, and he played right centre back, right back, and CDM. Passed all them tests. He did very, very well. He did well again against St. Louis, and I think his last performance for the first team was Arsenal away. He might have featured a little bit since then, but the last one I really remember is Arsenal away when Onana got injured in the first half in the CDM role. And Lamar Bogard helped come on and turn the game around. He was great. Really, really excellent. And I think he's a midfielder, very packed in that area. But, he showed a few signs in a centre-back at least. I didn't like him at right-back last season. He got exposed quite a lot there. But at centre-back and at CDM, he's been pretty effective. So I'd go with rising baller, I think. I think to be big steps would be to somehow usurp one of the kind of the big dogs, and I'm not sure I see that happening. Okay.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that one. Let's not get too excited about Lamar Bogard, shall we?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good that Villa have a player who can be a solid utility player essentially and is homegrown. Yeah. That's a good thing for Villa to have, I think. And yeah, it might be a little bit of an unsung hero this season. Now we move on to Luca Dean. So look back towards the end of last season, he had his place usurped by Ian Maatsen in the last couple of games. Do you think that's going to continue this season?
Yes, I'm a bit worried that Luca Dean is about to fall off the cliff edge. Right. Look, it's a guess. Obviously, we don't really know what shape exactly these players are in, but the fact that he got edged out of that position by Ian Maatsen towards the end of last season, and Maatsen starting that game at Old Trafford said a lot to me. And while Maatsen is only going to get better, Luca Dean at 32 years of age is presumably only going to drop. So I'd go as far as to say he'd be in the falling category.
Right.
Like maybe it might even be quite steep. Like I'd say his absolute best here is a slight drop, but I'd actually say falling.
Right. Okay. That's a diversion from what I would go for. I think I'm more stay the same. I think he's a very fit and capable player, and he's always. I think when people have questioned whether he's, going to fall out the team, he always seems to rise to the occasion.
That is true. He always fights back. He's stuck around. Yeah, he's risen to so many challenges.
Yeah,
that's okay. So we'll have to agree in the middle and say slight drop then.
Yeah, I think I agree. I'd go on slight drop just because I think Ian Maatsen will play more this season, and therefore Luca Dean, his form naturally probably won't be quite as good as when he plays all the time. So I think and obviously getting a bit older as well. But that moves us on to Ian Maatsen. He had a funny first season. I think towards the end there were really positive signs from him. He looks like a player who, if opposition teams just whip a ball over the back of him, as they did against Newcastle and Man United for 2 separate goals, that seems to be a vulnerable area for him. But going forward particularly, and I think defensively, he did improve substantially as the season went on.
I think he got loads and loads and loads better. Fixed a few obvious holes in his game along the way. Became a really strong attacking force and kind of became the left back that Alex Moreno was for Villa for 6 months, which was such a positive impact. So I'm going to pitch Maatsen high here. I'm going to pitch big steps. I think I think we're looking at a player here who spent a year coming to terms with like proper, consistent Premier League football, learning to fix a lot of the flaws in his game.
Yeah.
But then by the end of it, looked like he'd done a lot of that and really added speed and a direct edge to this team.
Absolutely.
I'm quite excited about what Maatsen might become from here after one kind of like a foundational course.
Yeah.
So I'm pitching big steps. I think Maatsen could be on the verge of exploding.
I totally agree with you. He was the first player that came to my mind for big steps with Villa this season, just because I thought towards the end of last season, there were some really electric performances from him, particularly the Newcastle 4-1. He was
Forest.
superb in that game. Forest as well. And yeah, he was starting to create more chances. And it felt like at the start of the season, there were moments where he'd be done one-on-one, things like that. But he started to get that out of his game as well. And very quick at pouncing on opposition players for the tackle as well. So all of those ingredients, you sort of think this year, if he can get a strong run of games and some strong performances, then big steps for him to make. And his ambition has to be the regular fullback for the Netherlands team, I think.
Absolutely. He's got some pretty tough competition over there, actually, because they're using Van der Ven at left back, and Jorel Hato is also working his way into that mix. So that will keep him on his toes for sure. I mean, he's very different to those players. With their centre backs playing left back, this guy is borderline wing back. So nice options. But yeah, let's see where the season takes him.
Yeah, for sure. So we move on to Andres Garcia, man we signed back in January. Do you think he can usurp Cash this season?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because my gut instinct is no. There's quite a lot of difference between the two players, just in terms of sheer experience and know-how more than anything else. Like Cash is 6 seasons into his Premier League career here, and Andres Garcia was plucked from the Segunda. So while Garcia looks quite exciting at times, last season also showed us that he has an awful lot to learn, and he didn't get a full foundational year like Maatsen. And beyond, it's not even a good comparison anyway, because the year before that, Maatsen played a Champions League final. So I think as much as I'd love to see Andres Garcia explode, and I think there's a lot of potential there, I'd pitch him at rising, not big steps, because I don't think he's going to play enough minutes to hit those big strides and to genuinely explode.
Yes, I'd agree. I'd put him in the rising area, just because I think when he came in, particularly in that final third, it looks like he's got a little bit more incision than Cash does. He looks a little bit more natural there.
And he's also two-footed, so he does have the ability to do good things cutting in or going outside. He doesn't have to try and fake one to do the other. And just become a bit more like one-dimensional. Where Cash is a little one-dimensional there. Like he often cuts in on his left and just blazes it over the bar. Whereas Garcia actually is a genuine threat when he cuts in on the left.
Yeah, I remember seeing some of his goals for Levante as well in his highlights packages, and he was cutting in and some absolute screamers into the top corner on his left. And my bet is he's going to do one of them this season for Villa, and he's going to be the hero of the week somehow at some point. I think more game time, particularly in Europe, he'll play a fair bit, you'd think. And but Emery does always come back to Matty Cash. He does like Matty Cash in that sort of as a functional, solid right back, athletic at least. We all know what his flaws are, but with Cash, I mean, what do you reckon?
On to Cash here. I can't see him getting any better. He just looks like a player who was fully peaked. I think he peaked 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like he's got too much better or sharpened up the rough parts of his game particularly well. He's a perfectly serviceable, solid Premier League right back, but I don't see any more levels that he can add to his game. But he is a super reliable guy, so I think he belongs in that stay the same category. He might be the most stay the same player that Villa have.
Yeah, I feel like he could play for the next 500 years and he'd just still be the same player. Seriously, you're cutting back again. I think that's it. I think he's sort of that type of player who gets a lot of unfair stick online. I think we know what his limitations are. We've watched him for long enough. We know that he in that final third, he's a bit. He almost thinks too quickly sometimes. Can't pick out the pass, but he's as a solid athletic fullback who is hard to get past. Cash is actually maybe slightly underrated in that aspect of his game, but his ceiling is Aston Villa. He's not going to be on Villa. I think by now we would have hoped the right back area might have been strengthened, but that's not happening. So I think you're exactly right. I think stay the same is never has a player been more stay the same in history than Matty Cash. A player who I don't think is staying the same though, Alex Moreno. What do you reckon?
Surely gone.
Has to be gone, doesn't it?
He's got to be gone. Don't need three left backs.
No. And
Don't need three left backs.
It's worth crediting. I think some people would say, "Oh, Moreno, he didn't prove a great signing." Moreno was a crucial signing, like one of the better signings we made in recent years. Because when he came in, that left-hand side at Villa transformed, and it was that left-hand side that propelled Villa to the Conference League places in his first season. And then, obviously, right at the end of that season, during a top performance against Liverpool, where we drew 1-1, he did his hamstring, and he never quite was the same player after that. But yeah, no. I have a lot of affection for Alex Moreno, but he looks like he's done him. Rumours are Girona is on the cards.
Fine, yeah.
So
whatever makes him happy.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I have a lot of love for him. Like, it was a very short stint, but it was very impactful. It pretty much got us into the Conference League. Was it cost effective? Arguably no, because we spent 15 million on a 30-year-old left back and put him on a decent wage, and then he tore his hamstring, and his hallmark is speed. So a lot of that is alarm bells in terms of foolproof recruitment. But we were not in that place back then. We were actually in a situation where it's like, hang on a minute, couple signings here who can just hit the ground running, and Europe's on.
Yeah,
and that was the mentality of the team at the time, and there's not an awful lot wrong with that. It's just very unfortunate that hamstring went. And not just went, snapped, and has just, it's just changed it all for him.
Yeah, completely. Right, well, we move on to Villa's player of the season last year, both fans and players. Youri Tielemans, what do you reckon?
My best buddy.
Yeah. That's what people love to remind you.
Surely done. Jeez. Right, so Tielemans, interesting. He played like every game last season. The hallmark for his season was that not only was he good, he was just always there until right at the very end, where he tweaked his hamstring or his groin or whatever it was, and he even managed to rise out of bed for that final day and try and turn the tide at Old Trafford when he probably was in no fit place to do so. Let's be honest. So fair play. My question here is, can Youri Tielemans repeat that season in terms of quantity? Like, can he do 4,000 minutes again?
Big question. I can't see that. I mean, maybe, but it'd be very surprising if he did.
It seems freakish that he managed it that time, and unlikely that he'd do it again. So from that very basic perspective, you can't be as impactful if you're not the ever-present player you were. So I've got one eye on slight drop, but that feels too harsh.
Yeah,
because even if he missed 5 or 6 games next year, maybe even up to 8 games, clearly he's at the top of his game right now. So as long as it didn't knock him out of his rhythm too much, why would his performances dip?
Yeah.
So I almost want a 7th category just between them for Youri Tielemans. He'll be just as good as he was, but he won't play 4,000 minutes. Can you do that one?
Yeah. I think I can fit that one in. Yeah.
So in failing that, stay the same.
Stay the same. Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
You don't think he can go higher, can you? Do you?
No. I think he was so utterly elite last season. He was like one of the best players in the Premier League last season, easily. I'd be very surprised if there's another level for him to reach. Maybe there is, but I don't see it. I think he's at his peak now, and hopefully, I mean, I remember you mentioned a few years ago, Tielemans. This is a guy who's played a lot of football since the age of 16. So there comes a point where that will catch up. But hopefully, he's a very sturdy individual. He doesn't seem to get too many bad injuries. Maybe the odd tweak here and there. So hopefully that continues this season and he stays roughly the same.
Yeah, he doesn't do a lot of sprinting either. Like he's not running in behind 40 times a game, that sort of stuff. So hopefully not too much there. And he clearly knows how to look after himself. You don't play 4,000 minutes in a season if you don't know how to look after yourself.
Yeah.
So hopefully that trend continues and he's just as impactful.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And if I could do a 7th category, I think I'd also do that as well. I totally agree. Well, we move on to the man who's just signed a new contract, Boubacar Kamara.
Yeah, interesting. So I'm saying rising. I'm saying Kamara has levels to hit. He can get better.
Yeah,
he's already amazing, and I think he can get better. He's had disrupted seasons at Villa. and injury has been his big nemesis. When he's actually able to get into those rhythms and he's able to play 5-6 games in a row, like he just looks unbelievable.
Yeah.
So what if he stayed fit for the season?
Yeah.
Well, really his impact would be outrageous.
Yeah.
So I'm pitching rising. I can understand an argument for staying the same, but I think this is a player who can still get better.
I absolutely agree. His age as well is not. He's not at his peak yet. He's not his peak years, and you're absolutely right. Every season's been a Villa. There's always been some sustained period where he's had an injury and had to work his way back into the team and fitness. Whereas this season, if he were able to go through a year without having like any kind of big breaks, then you really would think like it's undeniable that this guy's one of the best CDMs in the world, and I think he already is. But it's interesting. Like, do you think that's why? You never really hear him linked with moves away, given the fact that so many of our players do get those sort of links. Do you think is it maybe the injury side of things that might be what the reason he doesn't really seem to get the focus of, the Bayern Munichs or teams like that?
I just think it's because he plays holding midfield.
Right.
You really have to watch the game to really appreciate what Kamara does.
Yeah.
And it's all the Chelsea, Liverpool, and Man United fans. They're not watching Villa that closely.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, like I read a piece from a publication that will go unnamed at the end of the season that declared Morgan Rogers as Villa's best player last season. I was like, that is highlights FC, isn't it? Not only did he literally not win that award at the club from the fans or the players, right? Tielemans got it instead. The best overall player at the football club, maybe someone else entirely again. And it just, so I think it's just that. It's a bit of injury, sure, but no doubt the fact that he scored one goal in the last billion years is a factor too.
Yeah. He's when you watch Villa and when he's at his best, the way he jumps on opposition players is just there. He's an absolutely fantastic CDM. I think he's a brilliant, intelligent player, and I agree. I think there's levels for him to go to, and I'd put him in rising baller, and he may be even somebody who could qualify for big steps if he, has an even greater effect upon the team than we maybe anticipate. But John McGinn, we all love John McGinn. The man with the big old booty on him. I mean, it feels like his peak years are probably done, but he's still a very effective player for Aston Villa to have in their squad, right?
I really just don't know where to place McGinn. I could probably give you a case for all three of those middling categories.
Yeah.
It's very hard to pinpoint here where McGinn goes. Even if it was a slight drop, that would be fine because he still plays to a very, very high level. But his place in the team is feeling less and less secure these days.
Yeah.
Even as wearing the armband so often doesn't necessarily make him a shoe-in to play. And where once you would be certain he'd be on the pitch, you just didn't know if it would be left mid, right mid, support forward, or even in the midfield too. Nowadays, you're like, it's getting quite busy in the central midfield. And actually, if Jacob Ramsey's fit, then he's not going to be on the left. And Rodgers has spent a bit of time on the right. And then suddenly you're like, well, where's McGinn? And I think partially for that reason, partially for the fact that he's run a very long physical race at age 30, soon to be 31. I'm skewing towards slight drop, even though it feels like clickbait.
Yes, it does feel a bit clickbait. So that's going to be the main caption on this: us two sticking thumbs down around John McGinn. No wonder. You actually saw that. He's beer. I think. I think you made a very good case. I think it's one of them where McGinn is a very effective player, and on his day he's absolutely brilliant. The likelihood is he's getting older and he's not going to play as much football as he probably has in the last couple of years. And I just sort of feel like, has his peak happened? And the only way now really is just a slight drop, or roughly staying the same. I'm not sure whether to put him in stay the same or slight drop. Actually,
go on, host. You got to make the call.
I'm going to put him in the slight drop category. I know, very controversial.
You hate John McGinn.
That's it. I want him out. Get him out. Sell him to Rangers. I know he's a Celtic fan, but sell him to Rangers. No, I would. No, I obviously I think John McGinn's a super player. And actually, one case you could make is, I went to the Fulham 1-0 win at the end of last season, and one thing that Villa were doing to get past Fulham's high press, which is what I think more and more teams are going to do this season because it's just a natural thing to do, is Emi Martinez would get the ball, and it wasn't, I wouldn't call it a long ball, but it was sort of knocked ball over the top, just shy of the halfway line into John McGinn. And John McGinn was the perfect player to back into Fulham players because they couldn't get the ball off him. And I was sat right by the pitch and watching, I think it was Kenny Tete and a few of the Fulham players screaming in anger about having to deal with McGinn because they just couldn't deal with him. It was fascinating to watch. And it's a real, I think he's on the whole a slightly underrated player. And maybe I've underrated him here, put him in the slight drop. But I just think naturally it's what's going to happen. But at the same time, if Villa do play that sort of style a little bit more direct at times, John McGinn could really come into his own and be even more effective than he has been. So yeah, I just thought I'd make that little case. But Amadou Onana, what do you reckon?
Well, I'm going to go big steps for two reasons.
Okay.
One, he takes literally massive steps. He is a huge man. Two, we're scratching the surface on him. I'm sure of it. Like, again, a bit of a disrupted, broken up first season, but there were times last season from an attacking perspective with regard to some of the goals he scored, Newcastle, young boys, that sort of thing, where he just was, the way he hits the ball sometimes, you just go, wow, you are incredible. And then more towards the back end of last season as well, the impact he had defensively, the amount of space that he can cover, the way he can lock down such a huge area of the pitch just single-handedly and change the tide of a midfield battle. Honestly, I look at him, I think he has so many raw tools that Emery is only just starting to finesse. And I think he as well, from what I can see from him, in terms of when I listen to the way he speaks about football, the way he speaks about Emery, like I can't think of many other players who sound so desperate to learn and improve and just work on their game. So add all that together, and I think Onana is firmly in the Maatsen category of you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yes. Towards the end of last season when Yuri Tielemans got injured and Onana went into that more creative role next to centre midfield role next to Boubacar Kamara, he really shone. Bournemouth away is a game that really comes to mind. And there was another game after that as well, which has sort of gone out of my head. But he really shone in those.
Next, wasn't it? Yeah.
Spurs, that was it.
Yeah,
and he really shone in those games. I'm with you. I do think there's some big steps to him. I think there's a level that he can reach that if he can stay injury free, he'd become one of the most sort of impactful midfielders in the Premier League. He really could, because there's so much ability to him and defensively, but also, as you say, those shots he has. If you can smash a few more of those in this season, then that helps.
And sometimes he just picks up the ball and just runs 30 yards with it and just shrugs everybody off. How Yaya Toure used to part the Red Sea. And it's like all these little things that he does, like the set piece threat, because he's taller and better in the air than everybody else. And the ability to carry the ball upfield. He can take the ball under duress. He can shoot from 25 yards and have it skim the grass. And he can defend and tackle huge spaces. He's got like everything. He just needs to pull it all together more consistently and stay a bit fitter. And he's got a great coach to be able to do that. I just look at him. I just think he has everything. It just needs to fall into place. Go on, put him in the right section.
In the big steps. It's interesting because again, like I talk about that Fulham game when I was right next to the pitch. There was one moment where Onana chased down a Fulham player next to me, and it was just the sheer scale of the man approaching this Fulham player who had his back to him. And I remember thinking, bloody hell, just the sheer presence of this guy really must get in your head, I think, if you play against him. Yeah. But it's interesting. Our big steps players are the two big signings of last summer who it feels like as the season wore on, they both improved and got used to Emery's style. And towards the end of last season, we're really starting to show like there could be something building for next season.
And this is very much in line with the history of Unai Emery, where he does bring new signings along quite slowly. Like it's not that often across his career, not just at Villa, but across his career, that he has made big signings and they have come into the team like with barely any tactical meetings under their belts. Obviously, Pau Torres is a separate case, but he already did that crash course at Villarreal under the same manager. So, there's not necessarily too much to learn. But Emery's always been someone that's been relatively slow to bring along new signings. He makes sure that they're definitely ready and they understand all of the instructions before they go in. And it's no surprise that basically Villa are going to reap the rewards of last year's business this year. And maybe that we can paint that as a positive for this summer to say that, unless Villa signed a superstar, which clearly for budget reasons is not possible, maybe we'd be waiting for a bit of impact from them anyway.
Yeah, no, agreed. So we move on to another centre midfielder. God, we've got very strong centre midfield, haven't we? Ross Barkley, what do you reckon?
Okay, I have no idea. Barkley's season, for personal reasons, it just didn't go to plan post Christmas. We didn't see a lot of him, and I just am guessing that he will remain the same player as long as he can get back to the pitch and get back to being available.
Yeah,
why would he drop as the fourth midfielder? He's great, but it's really hard to see him getting any better at this stage, I guess is how I'd put it.
Yeah, same. I mean, unless Tielemans is out, for a period of time, and Barkley comes in and really shines in that role,
still think Barkley would be waiting for a spot there, because you'd imagine that becomes Onana and Kamara.
Yeah,
because that's what it was at the end of last season.
Yeah, exactly that. And there's might be periods of time where Tielemans even plays off the striker, which he did in his first season at Villa.
Yeah, might do.
And when Barkley's played up there, he's not looked great. He's much better deeper, I think.
No. I mean, but so you're looking at some of these players here, and you think they've got Thursday nights written all over them.
Yes.
And Ross Barkley is one of those. Like, Ross Barkley should really be playing all of those group league phase games.
Yeah.
With Lamar Bogard.
Yeah, Barkley and Bogard against Go Ahead Eagles. Right. So, Leander Dendoncker, he's still with us. Our favourite player.
Come on.
Right.
Rip the band. Put him at the bottom. Put him in the low.
No. They are done.
They are done, and let's move on.
Move straight on, yeah. Get rid of that contract, please. Morgan Rogers. Fantastic season last year. I think a lot of us did call he was going to sort of have the sort of breakout season he did, just because the hints were there in his first half season at Villa. But can he get even better? Can he take big steps? Can he be a rising baller? What do you reckon?
I'm pitching big steps here. I've got him in the same. For me, I've got him in the same category there as Maatsen. Just like the best is yet to come. Like, just getting better and better. 8 goals, 10 assists last season, and 10 yellow cards. Nice bit of symmetry. Yeah. Well done, Morgan.
He is naughty, yeah.
He is, yeah. Although I feel like he gets a lot of those yellow cards because he's complaining to the ref that he's been fouled for the 8th time in 5 minutes. I do feel quite sorry for him in that respect.
Yeah.
Also, players that get involved in those kind of duels and those kind of long carries where you're swatting at players, you just get called up for stuff. Do you remember how John Carew used to get called up for like 3 fouls a game, despite the fact the defenders were literally all over him all the time, and somehow it was Carew that got booked. And you come out of it going, how's that his fault? It's a bit of that. But yeah, Rodgers already very productive. I think just gets better. Ball retention needs to be better. The passes need to get cleaner. The decision making at the end of those lung busting runs needs to get better. The ball striking needs to get better in some scenarios as well, which pre-season is kind of hinting at us that he's getting that little bit of composure. Mm-hmm. He scored a couple of goals off runs or off great movement that I think Morgan Rogers last year may have missed. Yeah, that might be harsh, but I've watched what he's been doing, and I'm like, oh, you look like you're starting to develop that kind of killer instinct. Yeah, which I have not associated with him so far. So there's a lot of places that he can improve, and if that's the case, and you're backing the player to do that and to take those steps, then it's top category for me.
I agree. I think he's got the world is his oyster, and I think he's the type of player who you think there is every single top club, Real Madrids of this world, are going to be keeping an eye and thinking, how good can this guy be? Because he looks like he's got that level about him. He proved it in the Champions League last year, where he had some fantastic performances. Premier League last year as well. I think you're right. I think there's just games sometimes where, particularly when he plays centrally, and this is why I think Asensio went central, A, to fit Asensio into the team, but B, there were games, and I remember Chelsea away being a particular example of this, where we lost 3-0, where Watkins and Rodgers, sometimes the ball just bounces off them and it keeps coming back. And it's because Rodgers is trying to sort of gamble, or he's not holding it up. And then Watkins is having a day where it's just not sticking to him. So that sometimes is where I think when he's central, that's where he could really improve. But you just sort of feel like his aim this year should be get over 10 goals, get into double figures, and maybe even aim for double figure assists. Like, that's the level we think he could get to, I think.
Yeah, I'd like to see him hit double figures for goals, but and obviously, provide the assists, be a good team player like you already are. But really, for me, it will be the fine details. It will be like at the end of the run, can you not underhit the pass?
Yeah.
At the end of the run, can you not scuff the shot with your left foot into the keeper's arms? It's like, it's the sharpness at the end of the run. It's the decision making. It's just the natural refinement of the game. Like that's what I really want to see. Just like tidy it up a little bit, because as exhilarating as it is, it's still quite messy, and that is the barrier right now to him being considered an elite footballer.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. So we'll move on to a player who, he's been linked to West Ham fans, very excited about him potentially being in their claret and blue, the rip-off of the Villa shirt. Maybe Nottingham Forest have been heavily linked with him. Jacob Ramsey, he's one of our own. Divides opinion on whether people would like him to stay or go. I think most of us want him to stay. But could you see a world in which Villa do sell Ramsey?
Yes. Yes, because he's just no longer indispensable.
Yeah.
Obviously, Emery really likes him. He always turns to him when he's fit, and that tells you a story. So it's not to say that he's not fancied, but he's not an indispensable footballer. And in the needs-must scenario, especially in a pure profit scenario, Ramsey is very much, for me, on the chopping block in a way that I kind of would... shrug shoulders is the wrong... that's harsh, but it's getting close to that, isn't it? Because there's only so much patience you can have with a player who has been continually injured for 18 months and hasn't really got any better. And in picking a category for him here, maybe it feels a bit harsh, but I don't expect him to get any better. I just feel like he's plateaued a bit, and he might actually need to change scenarios in order to find a new level.
I think that's very true. I think sometimes it feels like somebody to get better might need to go elsewhere. If he can stay fit and he can really sort himself out on that left central role and play regularly, then he's got, he can get back to a higher level, I think, and fall into the rising baller category. But I think that the real tragedy of Ramsey, though, really was, it just felt like in that run to the Conference League, he was so brilliant down the left-hand side, and he really looked like he was going places. Then he got that foot injury, didn't he, for England in the under-21s tournament. And it's just been 2 years of stop-start and not quite really hitting just not hitting the heights he did before. And I think there's a world if Villa get a big bid for him, maybe they can use that money to then go and reinvest and find a profile player who might offer something slightly different. But I'd go with Ramsey and stay the same. I don't think he's going to get worse, but he's there's a case to be made that he can get better. Definitely, he's definitely.
He should be getting better, but I just don't have any faith in it.
Yeah, same. I think that's the perfect way to put it. I think. Now, a player who you sort of assume was on his way, he was at Bologna last season. He was on Middlesbrough last season on loan. Hasn't played a first-team game for Villa yet, but he's featured in pre-season and he's done all right. Samuel Illing Jr., interesting player. Juventus, from London, was at Juventus, Champions League experience. Do you think he can work his way into Villa's team this season?
I mean, to be honest, this is based off not a lot, but for me personally, I've just been counting Illing Jr. out of the picture.
Yeah,
like just waiting to move on again, and awaiting sale. That might be harsh. That might be dead wrong, because I don't know, but it's never really felt like Villa are excited about Illing Jr. And so I would probably put him in the probably gone category. I would expect El Engineer to leave the club this summer permanently or on loan.
Yes, same. I still am of the expectation he'll go on loan at least. Right, well, we'll move on to Emi Buendia.
Same.
Surely,
yeah. I can't. I'm also expecting him to go. Like it doesn't seem like he's got a place in the first team.
No, it doesn't. And he's had his time. I think 4 years now, and it's just not really happened, does it? So I don't know what more evidence you really need. Daniel Marlin, another new signing, back in January. Now interesting, obviously wasn't in the Champions League squad, but did get a couple of big goals towards the end of last season. What do you reckon?
So how hard are we buying into pre-season hype here?
Hook,
line and sinker, or just dipping your toes in?
You just dip your toes in a pre-season, don't you? That's all you can ever do with it.
Yeah, I think a very fair way to assess it would be to put him in the rising category because his Villa career feels like it has barely started.
Yeah,
he's clearly a good player. He may never have a prominent role at the club, but I think we were all a bit surprised at how little he played over the stretch last season when he was coming on for 15 minutes. It was a really, really positive, energetic presence to come on. So I think he's going to take steps forward this year. I think he's going to play more football and he's going to be a more prominent player for Villa. So I'd put him at rising. I think there's those people like whoever you are, if you stayed up last night and watched Villa play against St. Louis, and you're absolutely like fully into preseason mode, you're probably screaming big steps. Marlon is the truth. Marlon is the world's next great player. But I am going to temper it slightly and just say rising.
I agree because he's proven himself very effective as a backup striker. On the right, he's got a couple of big goals so far. I think his target this season should be for double-figure goals. Just going off the number of goals he got towards the end of last season and the sort of chances he gets, he should really give himself that target. But my only concern with Marlon is something I think we've spoken about before is in the past, he has had spells during seasons where he really goes off form. It's whether he can ensure that doesn't happen this season, then, I'm really confident about what he can contribute to Villa. But I already am. I think he's a very effective squad player. We've got a high quality squad player there. And particularly in Europe, big goals to come for him, I think. So I agree. I put him in rising baller, but I'm not quite of the belief he's going to win the Ballon d'Or as a few other fans seem to be thinking. Now, a player that we've spoken privately about a lot, Jamaica's own Leon Bailey. Well,
can we not?
Yeah.
I expected him to leave this summer.
I think
a lot of people probably feel like his time at Villa has come to a natural conclusion. So I would stick him in the feels like a summer exit, surely done. If it doesn't transpire, then he'll probably end up in big steps. Then that's the dichotomy of Leon Bailey, because if he doesn't go, it can't get worse than how it went last season. Like last season was tragically bad.
It was bad.
And we know based on the season before that he can be actually a really influential presence.
Yeah.
Like a really, really good player. It all went wrong last year. I feel like it's pointing towards the exit. But if he does stay, he goes minimum rising, if not big steps, because
you can't get worse.
We literally can't get worse.
Yeah.
And you can't even say the same.
Yeah. And it's interesting. If you were to do these categories in the last 3 seasons with players and what they've done, Leon Bailey would year to year be big steps to falling to back to rising baller. And then just gone. Yeah. It's absolutely unbelievable. The case is he's had 4 seasons of Villa. First 2 were just a bit like whatever. Third one, he looked like one of the best attackers in world football. Fourth one, dreadful. Just a dreadful season. And it's going to take a lot for him to win back round the confidence, I think, if he stays. But, all it would take with him, you just never know. Like a good performance at the start of the season with a goal, and suddenly he's feeling great and he's up for it. But
that's the thing with him, isn't it? So there was a miss at West Ham opening day, right?
Yep.
And then he played Arsenal when he thought he'd done his hamstring, but turned out he didn't because he fell over.
Yeah.
And that was it. He was done.
Yeah.
The whole season
just gone.
Disappears. Like, what the hell? So
Bizarre.
yeah, a winner on the opening day against Newcastle, and he's in the top category.
Yeah, that's it. Like, absolutely mad.
It's a funny one, isn't it? But
Mad.
I would say just put him. I still kind of expect him to leave.
Yes.
So I'd still put him in the bottom. But if he ends up staying, and we might end up doing this again, he's going up 3 categories minimum.
Yeah, absolutely.
4, actually.
Fascinating character. Well, we come to a player who Manchester United fans will not shut up about at the moment. Oliver George Watkins. Oliver George, is it? Yeah, Ollie Watkins, anyway. I've completely forgotten his middle name now.
Isn't there an Arthur in there or something?
Arthur, yeah. Arthur came into my head, and I was like, hold on, why do I call him King Arthur every now and
Right,
then?
Oliver George Arthur Watkins.
That's it, yeah. God, phew. But there he is. I mean, I don't think he's going to leave. I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but who knows?
Yeah. It would take it if 60 million bid comes in, Villa might do it.
So here's the way to sum this up. This is Jack Collins on the Ranks FC podcast I was listening to the other day. One of the patrons wrote in, he's a Man United fan. He said, I've just read that we're interested in spending 50 million on Ollie Watkins. Why on earth would we do that as a club? And Jack replied with, well, if you're Aston Villa, why on earth would you sell for less? And that's it, isn't it? So the valuation gap between Watkins in terms of what he's worth to Villa and what he's worth to United as a player who is turning 30 this year is so massive that this is just one of those deals that you're just like, it's a dead end, mate, because he's worth too much to Villa and too little to United.
Yeah.
They just won't pay that money for a player of that age. And that's exactly right. That's bang on.
Yeah.
And Villa obviously can't afford to sell him because of the known quantity of what he can bring them. So this one has always felt very flawed, and we're starting to get a little bit of communication in the last week or so that Villa see this one as an absolute no-no. And now we've seen that Šeško wants to go to United, and United are starting to put the groundwork in. I think this is all pointing one way, which is Ollie's sticking around.
Yeah, I think if we got Champions League, I think there might have been a case that he was moved on just because of his age. I think now that we've still got him. I mean, I've said it a million times. I'm the chairman of the Ollie Watkins fan club. I love the guy, but I am going to go with him as big steps. Now,
what?
Yes, big steps. A controversial choice. I thought I'd save the controversy to the end because last season he had no preseason, obviously, right? Played with England right to the Euros, turned up at West Ham on the opening day and looked absolutely just dead on his feet.
Ridiculous.
And then he had those terrible misses against Arsenal at home as well. And so it was, it took him a little while to get going, though it often does in a start season for him. But also, like, if you look at the number, he did score a decent number of goals in the Premier League again, but
16. It's more than decent.
Yeah, exactly. But you look at him, the number of Champions League games we played, and he only got 1 in the Champions League.
Oh, he was robbed. He was robbed in Switzerland. It's the Leon Bailey complex.
It was sickening. But it's so I sort of think this season, I think we'll see more goals from him in the Europa League. I also think he'll start faster this season. In that, I think you've seen him already in pre-season, 2 really good goals he scored, and I think he's going to play a bit annoyed this year in the sense of, I want to prove why I should have started against PSG last year, for instance, or things like that, and show how good I am. And I think he's targeting the World Cup next season. And I feel like his target should be 20 Premier League goals or more because he can do it. And I'm just going to say he has a good few months off over the summer, strong pre-season, and goes and scores more goals next season and gets more important goals in the Europa League compared to what he got in the Champions League last season. So yeah,
I love the optimism, and I think it's a good case. I particularly like the idea of him playing angry, playing motivated. Yeah. The World Cup on the horizon, yes. The understandable annoyance at being shifted out of the team more or less for Marcus Rashford last season, not playing that PSG game. And I hope that all of these players have a really bitter taste in their mouths about how they played at Old Trafford on the last day. And I hope they all want to set that right. And Ollie, as much as anybody in this squad, should be feeling like they can do an awful lot better than that. And that they should be doing an awful lot better than that. And yes, despite the numbers, and they are quite overwhelmingly good again, 16 goals, 8 assists in the Premier League. It's not bad at all.
Very good, isn't it?
It still feels like he didn't have the greatest year. So from that perspective, it feels like he can go ahead and get better with a proper preseason under his belt and with real motivation. From the other perspective, can you really take big steps on 24 Premier League goal contributions? Like, how much better can it actually get in real-term numbers?
You wait, he's going to hit 50 this season. Lionel Messi numbers.
So that is why I would shade. I was somewhere between stay the same and rising.
Okay.
Given that you're at the very top, you were on the moon.
Gone very eccentric, yeah.
Maybe we'll compromise in the middle and say rising.
Okay, I think that's fair. Yeah, fair.
Is that okay?
Definitely fair. Yeah. I think he's just a player that we've all seen him. We all know what his flaws are. We all know what his strengths are. But I just feel this year is going to be quite unique for Watkins. I've got a feeling it might just be there's a case you can make that it might be sort of a big swan song season for him, and he's going to go big for it. World Cup, and that 100 Premier League goal target. It's unlikely he gets there this season, but it's something he could probably aim for.
Unlike, what's he on, like 61 or something, 62?
Oh no, he beat Gabby's record last year, didn't he? He got to 70.
Oh, sorry, 70. Okay, yeah,
76ish, something like that. So
I've stolen 10 goals off him. Sorry, Ollie.
Yeah, that's how often he hits the crossbar on the post. It's sort of. Yeah. So, well, that is it. That's pretty much the Villa squad. I don't think there's anyone I missed other than like Zepikena, Redmond. But I mean, what can you say there? Really?
Yeah, Jimmo. What are you going to say? I mean, obviously they're going to take really big steps if they play. So it kind of pollutes the picture of the squad, right? Because what we're trying to achieve from this was, all right, Villa haven't really made many or any signings so far this summer, but blue skying it a little bit. Got quite a lot of players here who are geared up towards improving and just playing even better than last season. And keeping a squad together is one thing, but getting these players to get better and better and move through the levels will mean that the team gets better, even if big players aren't necessarily bought. And so we've ended up with 3 players making big leaps forward, 5 on the up, the majority staying at least the same. And some contentious calls in a slight drop. Like, you can argue those either way, I think, with McGinn and with Dean and with Mings. There's nothing in falling, which I've just noticed after an hour, it is coloured green, and Big Steps is coloured red, which makes no sense whatsoever. But it is what it is. Obviously, the lads at the bottom, if they weren't there, then some of them would be in falling. Like Moreno, Dendoncker, they're just getting worse. Buendia seems to be just getting worse. So they'd be in that category. It looks a bit strange that they're empty, but 3 of those bottom 5 would be in that one, I think, if there wasn't a 7th tier. Yeah. 6th tier.
Yeah. It's quite rare you get players who really fall off a cliff in seasons, but I think one example last year was Leon Bailey. He definitely was a faller. You're exactly right. I mean, it's easy to forget, given the way everything went at Old Trafford on the last day, how well Villa did end the season and how we'd kind of stopped conceding stupid goals. And if we can, given the fact that ultimately what cost us Champions League really wasn't just the last day of the season, it was how we kept conceding idiotic goals for the first 5-6 months of the season.
Well, it was October. It was like a 6-week period in October and November where there was like a full 1 hour's worth of blooper reel happened just to Villa in 6 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what led to us not getting top 5, really. And so I think this season, if we can not have a period like that, if we can sort of carry on the momentum we had towards the end of last season where we conceded fewer goals, fewer mistakes, and all these players that are on the rise, and if we can complement it with 1 or 2 signings, then there's core reason to be pretty excited about what Villa potentially could do next season, particularly in the Europa League, I think. Great
stuff. We've managed to completely whitewash our own emotions.
Yeah, completely. We've been like the 2 Roman emperors. We haven't put the thumb down really on too many players, kept them all alive. But Sam, honestly, thank you so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed that. First time we've done that, and I definitely want to do more and more of that. And good to have you as, a former Ranks FC man, one of the true experts of this form of content. So, but thank you. And Sam, for those, who might look for you online, where can we find you and your work?
At Tighe Football, Blue Sky is where I chat. So if you do actually want to talk to me, I will reply there. Twitter is probably not going to happen. Instagram is the same. They're all the same. I managed to get all the handle. Funnily enough, Tighe Football was not taken by anyone. So you'll be able to find me on whichever platform you like. But just bear in mind that if you do want to actually have a chat, and I'm always happy to chat, it will be on Blue Sky.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Sam. It's been great to have you on. And sure we'll chat again soon.